He is the strongest S-rank Squire, but hides it. A tank named Rudd boasts an unparalleled defense level. Alongside his team of adventurers, he ventures into the labyrinths wherever he goes, governed by a formation typically divided among attack, defense, and healing members. In a tank's case, his mission is to block enemy attacks and prevent his allies from taking damage. Despite the importance of this role, tanks are often seen by many as those responsible for the dirty work within a group. They are never recognized and never bask in the limelight after a battle, yet they are the link that ensures the safety of the members who generate damage to the opponent. However, Rudd's story is about a tank who surpassed all expectations and turned things around, becoming the protagonist of his own story by showing the world that a defense specialist can be more relevant than anyone else in an adventurer's team. And so we get a glimpse of the first steps of the Squire in his personal life, and initially, we see that he has a very deep relationship with his sister, Manisha. Unfortunately, in a moment of affection, he is awakened by Nin, a teammate who shows that the young man was only fantasizing a reunion with his loved one. Nin is concerned about her friend's obsession, who seems to care too much only about his little sister. To try to alleviate her partner's pain, she suggests that he focus his mind on other matters for a change, like a romance, for example. And of course, Nin can't help but imply that she herself could be a candidate, as her face turns red instantly and Rude dodges the topic upon noticing this. In any case, the tank can't concentrate on anything else as Manisha has an incurable disease, and Rudd's only hope to reverse this is by capturing the labyrinth's secret treasure. Legend has it that this magical treasure grants any wish to its conqueror. However, Rudd doesn't seem confident that he can achieve this feat, questioning his ability to overcome such a massive challenge. On the other hand, Nin supports her friend, commenting on his importance on the front lines. Despite this, she expresses concern about the decrease in defense he has suffered in recent expeditions. Rudd agrees, as he himself doesn't understand the reason for this sudden loss of status, and this weakness ends up causing him to consume many support items or overburden Nin with his healing. For this reason, Rudd feels responsible and apologizes to his companion, but once again she lifts the Squire's head, emphasizing how functional the team is, largely because of him. After all, Rudd has a shield with a defense value of 9,999, a status never seen before. In other words, the guy is an exceptional defender, and Nin thinks that even if a new member joins the group, he has to keep his head high. When Nin mentions a new member, a hero praised by all enters the room, having conquered many labyrinths at a very young age. This warrior is called Keglis, the leader of the group to which Rudd belongs. The boss gathers the entire team and announces that 2 more fighters will join the team. Nin doesn't like the idea and confronts Keglis, as according to the labyrinth rules, the maximum number allowed per formation is 6 people. With these 2 additions, they have a total of 7. But Keglis knows exactly what he's doing and expels Rudd in front of everyone, calling the former partner a useless tank. In the last battle, he lost a significant portion of his defense status instantly, compromising the mission's outcome. Once again, Nin stands by her friend, praising his quality and suggesting that even though he faltered at a certain moment, treating him with respect and discovering the cause of this sudden defense loss would be more just. However, the squadron leader sticks to his decision, arguing that Rudd's unknown abilities are the cause of this weakness, and this negligence almost led everyone to death. Therefore, expelling the tank is more than fair. Furthermore, the new members Keglis brought are evasion tanks, the most hyped class at the moment, as they defend themselves using the elegance of evasion, unlike a brute who only knows how to raise a shield. Witnessing the insults, Rudd tries to leave the room, but Keglis hasn't said everything he wanted yet. After all, the team didn't profit yesterday because of him, and it would be fair for Rudd to hand over some belongings to compensate for this incompetence, so Keglis takes away a sword from the warrior. Humiliated, Rudd is comforted by Lilia and Layli, who recognize the ex-companion's worth and wish him good luck. Nin is inconsolable and fears she will never see Rudd again, so he invites her to visit him someday in the city where he will return to live with his sister, called Avancia. Nin's ego is hurt, and she tries to convince her companion that she won't necessarily miss him that much, but Rudd understands well that the girl didn't say it with ill intentions, as she is only hurt by his departure. Finally, after the farewell, Rudd reflects on Keglis' harsh words and wonders if he is truly right when he says that the tank is useless, and his pathetic abilities reduce the shield's absorption. With all these doubts weighing on his mind, all he wanted was an appraisal ability to identify the effect of these techniques. And at that moment, he hears a group of Rank D discussing an escort job to the city of Kuras. As Avancia is close to this destination, Rudd sees in this expedition a good opportunity to return to his sister, so he approaches and asks for permission to join the undertaking. The young adventurers are impressed by the size of the warrior and ask about the tank's ranking. However, Rudd is still in rank F, the lowest of all, because he spent his entire life stuck in mazes instead of seeking rank promotions. But as he hesitated to tell this story before he could utter a word, the young ones recognized the Squire, noticing that he is one of the members of the great hero Kygla's group. Rudd was going to explain that he was kicked out of the gang, but before that, the escort's contractor approaches and hurries the fighters. In the blink of an eye, Rudd is already in a wagon heading to Cuirass. He feels guilty for having the sensation of deceiving everyone by not revealing his rank, but there's no turning back now, so it's onward and upward, providing excellent service to avoid embarrassment. Soon the escort begins its adventure, and the tank joins the new companions in the days that pass, facing the challenges of the long journey. Until near the arrival in Cuirass, a thick fog envelops the entire area, prompting the contractor to deem it better to take a break and wait for the fog to lift. However, Rudd has a bad feeling about this, so he recommends they continue the journey and brave the bad weather to reach the approaching city. Soon, the uneasy atmosphere affects the convoy's spirits, and Rudd takes the lead when his shadow approaches the wagon. The odd appearance of the silhouette makes the Squire think it's a potential assailant, but as soon as the fog clears, a young girl, dirty and abandoned, is revealed. He approaches to lend a hand to the girl, but as she tries to get up, a magical stone becomes visible on her chest. And in that very instant, the situation worsens when a venomous forest snake threatens the adventurers. Given the size of the monster, the group is certain that this is the end for them, but Rudd positions his shield and uses his taunt ability, forcing the snake to focus solely on him as a target. With this, the creature spews acid on the tank, who mitigates further damage with his shield, but some of the liquid splashes on the protagonist. The youngsters worry about their companion, but he assures them that he has abilities that protect him from negative statuses. So he maintains the team's safety and asks them to attack in the meantime, but fear has already taken hold of the rest of the group, and this hesitation gives the snake the opportunity to advance and knock everyone down with tremendous force. With the impact of the blow, Rudd experiences a brief flashback of a memory where his sister pleads for his help. With this image of suffering in his mind, the warrior realizes that the person he loves the most won't be able to count on her brother if he's dead, so he rises again and motivates the companions to react. As each without a sword, he takes on the frontline protection and emphasizes that teamwork will bring victory as long as they muster the courage to attack while he holds the beast. The tank protects the others until they engage the enemy, striking the giant creature one by one. In response, the snake prepares for a deadly attack, contorting its body into a kind of giant wheel and running at high speed towards the protagonist. However, despite fearing the worst, he maintains his guard and restrains the snake's momentum, leaving it vulnerable to further attacks from the rest of the group. With this, the forest snake is finally defeated, and the young adventurers are fascinated by the talent of the tank they found, praising that all of this was possible because of him. However, Rudd demonstrates humility and leadership by attributing the victory to teamwork, emphasizing that each member played their part masterfully. After all this, he could leave the mysterious child behind with those sparkling diamond eyes. Thus, he approaches and offers protection to the girl until the city of Avancia. She further displays her innocence and vulnerability when she accepts the tutelage of a stranger. But the man sets another example of his kindness by offering a new outfit to the poor girl, given by the contractor as a thank you for saving his life. And as she goes to change, the old man asks if the child is a fugitive, but Rudd asserts that she is one of the homunculi, slaves of humans who can never travel alone. As she is lost and abandoned, there is certainly a good reason behind it. Surely slave traders wouldn't dare enter such a forest in search of a possession, although she wasn't wearing a chain, leaving the case open. In any case, Rudd promised to take care of her for now, and so he did until the two disembark at their final stop with the convoy. In parting, the inexperienced group invites the tank to be a permanent member of the team, but he politely declines, claiming to be in search of the secret treasure. Impressed, the boys mention that this treasure had the technology to create homunculi. However, they whisper among themselves that they don't like homunculi because they're a bit creepy, working endlessly without showing any expression or feeling. At that moment, Rudd knew that these insults would greatly affect his companion if it continued, so he draws the attention of the young adventurers and finds a way to leave there quickly. Finally, everyone says their definitive goodbyes, and on the way to the city, Rudd introduces himself to his new friend and asks her to return the gesture. However, she reveals that she has never been called in any way. Thus, Rudd grants the girl an affection she has never had in her life and presents his companion with a name. In that moment, she found herself amidst a rain of Lunafia petals, and the Squire decides to call the young girl Luna from that moment on. Later, as night falls, Luna and Rudd have a meal while preparing to sleep early as they intend to reach Avancia early in the morning. However, wild wolves disrupt the group's peace and attack the child. Contrary to expectations, she reacts with a knife, skillfully eliminating all three animals. Witnessing this scene, Rudd is certain that Luna is an illegally created homunculus, a distinct class with emotions others lack, along with an unmatched ability to fight. Normally, illegal homunculi are feared and discarded, but the fear in that child's eyes reminds Rudd of his sister, so he quickly forms an immediate affection for the girl. Thus, he decides to ask Luna if she could face the giant snake, but she responds that she lacks physical abilities and can only handle problems through magic. This makes Rudd think that she can mimic the effects of abilities. Later, she adds that she has a technique that enhances magic, along with another for support. In other words, she possesses the art of appraisal, the rarest ability of all. Only one person in the neighboring kingdom had this capability, but she passed away a few years ago. Therefore, Luna is the only person in the world with this talent. Eagerly, Rudd asks the girl to assess his abilities, and she promptly grants the favor by analyzing that the Squire has 4 powers. The first is provocation, forcing the target to focus attention on oneself. The second is healthy body, making the user immune to status effects and increasing natural healing, rendering the body extremely resilient. Rudd already knew these techniques, so he was eagerly awaiting the explanation of the last 2. Soon Luna reveals that the third ability is called life conversion, allowing the conversion of lost defense into energy. This makes the tank realize that some abilities can only be activated after being understood. And finally, sacrifice shield. This ability allows you to endure the damage your allies receive instead of them. By doing this, your resistance increases along with theirs. Upon hearing this description, Rudd connects the dots and realizes that he was expelled for losing a lot of HP without any reason, but in reality, he was absorbing the damage from his entire group all this time by activating this ability unknowingly. In the end, Rudd gives a sincere smile and thanks his new friend because she surely lifted a tremendous burden off the loyal Squire's shoulders as he was cast out for something that only benefited everyone he swore to protect. So with his head held high, he arrives in the vicinity of Avantia, where his sister awaits him. After a long journey, they arrive in the town and Luna admires the tranquility of the place. Although Rudd thinks it's a good place to live, but with few possibilities. Anyway, he hopes the girl will do well in her new life. And even before the duo can breathe the air of Avantia, a friend named Melina hugs the big guy warmly and asks how long he will stay this time. Shortly after, a knight expresses surprise at the arrival of the Squire and pulls Melina back a bit to give the guy more space to breathe. Melina explains that she was there to buy a hammer, while Phil was on patrol and took the opportunity to check on Rudd's youngest, Manisha. Rudd is pleased with his protective spirit, feeling at ease knowing the whole city keeps an eye on his sister while he's away. Then they finally ask who the young girl behind them is, and the Squire explains that she is Luna and he will take care of her until he finds a definitive place for her to stay. Melina is very friendly and introduces herself as the spokesperson for the town's blacksmith, while Phil is not as articulate and becomes shy when mentioning she's the sub-leader of surveillance. Everyone teases the girl's introversion, and this elicits a sincere smile from Luna, indicating that she is starting to feel more at ease. Later, they arrive home and Rudd asks the girl to speak quietly, as his sister may be sleeping. However, soon the guy smells the aroma of several tomato dishes that he loves so much. Behind this, the author of the recipes comes into the kitchen, welcoming her older brother with the usual affection. Rudd is extremely happy to reunite with his sister and introduces Luna, saying that she will spend some time with them. Manisha embarrasses the little one with her kindness, and then invites her to eat together, while the big brother drools over his sister's beauty and politeness. Manisha intends to prepare another portion, but as she is unwell, Rudd offers to help. During the preparation, Luna asks why Rudd's sister's hair keeps waving on her head, and the young man explains that some people have very peculiar physical characteristics. In Manisha's case, it's her hair. It moves according to her emotions. After that, the boy asks how his sister knew he was about to arrive, and she replies that it was a premonition. Once again, Rudd is amazed by the girl's kindness in preparing one of his favorite dishes upon arrival, but Manisha calms her brother's excitement by asking if he's an idiot. All this affectionate exchange makes Luna comment that the two are really close. Finally, lunch begins and Luna is trying to hold the spoon, but as she has used this utensil few times, she ends up dropping it on the floor. This triggers a memory for her, where she is eating with several other children. With all this going through her head, the girl feels unwell and apologizes, promising not to repeat the same mistake, but the siblings hurry to comfort her, showing that it was nothing serious and teaching her how to hold the spoon correctly. At that moment, she holds Luna's hand to give her more confidence, and with this gesture of affection, Manisha says that she will teach one thing at a time, so Luna needs to learn without haste. Over time, the three spent their days together, strengthening their bonds until Luna finally felt she had a home. One day, she even cooked a feast for the two friends to prove that she had learned everything Manisha taught her in the kitchen. During a meal, Rudd noticed that the food tasted like his sister's seasoning, making him imagine that this is the result of the homunculus learning abilities. After lunch, the siblings decide to take their friend to explore the city and meet the people. When Manisha went to get clothes she offered to Luna, the brother is enchanted again by the older sister's attitude. Manisha offers to help Luna change clothes, but this embarrasses the little one and she grabs the clothes hastily and runs up the stairs. At that moment, Rudd knew that the homunculus was afraid that someone would see her magic stone. With everyone ready, the tour of Avancia begins, and Rudd explains that the city doesn't have an adventurer's guild or a church, only a blacksmith and an apothecary with an excellent orchard. As for the blacksmith, there's Melina's father asking if Rudd would like to have a son with his daughter. Once again, he declines the proposal, and after introducing the man to Luna, Rudd discusses an important matter with the blacksmith, asking him to produce a new magical sword for him, as the old one was stolen by the cheeky Kagles. Razel agrees to the job and informs that his daughter will participate in the process, as she is skilled enough for it. In the next stop of the tour, Luna gets to know the monster plantation, where vegetables turn into creatures. As they grow from mana, they can be cultivated in any season. Moreover, they are very nutritious. In the middle of this explanation, two kids comment that Rudd is dating the girl who is accompanying him. But when corrected by Rudd himself, they respond that he will never have a girlfriend since he is obsessed with his sister. The Squire gets nervous and asks who taught the kids to say that, and they tell him it was Phil. Grandma Gigi scolds the kids, telling them to go back to work, and this situation triggers another memory for Luna, where she was enslaved with other children. In a state of shock, Luna took a while to realize that Rudd was trying to introduce her to Grandma Gigi, the apothecary, who makes medicine for Manisha. The lady smiles at the little one and comments that she reminds her of Manisha at that age. Afterward, she laments that the medicine she produced didn't work as well on Manisha as everyone would like. Despite this, Rudd lifts the old lady's spirits, saying that his sister is feeling much better because of the apothecary. This cheers up Grandma Gigi, who says she can always help with whatever they need, and adds that both Rudd and Luna are like children to her. Finally, she invites the child to pick some spinach. And the acquaintances keep coming, and soon some knights friends of Rudd appear, saying that the Squire finally forgot about his sister and brought another woman home. Everyone participates in the harvest, and once again Luna feels welcomed by all the residents. Later, Rudd apologizes for the comments people made about them dating, as in a small town there isn't usually much to gossip about. In Luna's case, being very beautiful, everyone seems to want to take care of her more than usual. This statement didn't sit well with Luna, so Rudd steers the conversation away and invites the girl to taste what they harvested, since it's still fresh. Having said that, she tries the vegetable and loves the taste. Looking around, the late afternoon brings more joy to the girl, and Rudd comments that Avancia is a simple and peaceful place, but he really likes it. Afterward, he asks Luna how she feels about living there, and she responds that she loves everyone and what she's been experiencing lately, so she would love to live there forever. Seizing the moment of openness, Luna decides to confess that she is a battle homunculus developed in the neighboring nation Brunkles, and she cries while asking for forgiveness for not telling the truth earlier, fearing that Rudd would kill her if he found out. Rudd, however, reveals that he knew all along because he accidentally saw the magic stone. Upon learning this, Luna asks why he helped her despite knowing her condition. Rudd shares that he and his sister lived on the streets before coming to Avancia, and Manisha had eyes similar to Luna's at that time. Despite their indigent life, they never forgot the feeling of being human. Rudd asks Luna what she wants to live as a homunculus or as a human. Even though Luna insists it's impossible for her to be human, Rudd is certain she can be whatever she wants and shares how they are alike in pursuing shadows. He ventures into mazes hoping to find a lost treasure to cure his sister's illness. Luna, deep down, wants to maintain the life she discovered and loves, so she enthusiastically declares that she wants to have a human life. Shortly after, she calls Rudd master, but the Squire doesn't like it. Despite the turn, Luna says she feels she should call him that, so Rudd doesn't contest, just accepts. Next, Luna feels she should tell her other great friend, Manisha. As soon as she arrives home, she confesses without hesitation, admitting she is a homunculus. Manisha shows no prejudice and innocently asks if Luna would still like to be her friend even after her confession. Luna becomes emotional with her friend's reaction and hugs her. Then she asks if Manisha knew this from the beginning, but Rudd's sister responds to her brother, stating that he always helps people in need, and he has always been like that. Later, in a mansion in Avancia that gathers many residents, Luna is helping with the cleaning, and despite Rudd feeling bad for her having to use a broom, she feels good being part of it and wants to help. Manisha makes tea for everyone, and aware of the girl's talent in the kitchen, everyone rushes to taste it. One of them even feels good being the first to try the girl's tea. Phil, also drinking with them, comments again that Rudd is really obsessed with his sister, and the tank takes the opportunity and asks the woman to stop saying that to everyone. Despite this, the youngest sister joins the conversation and agrees that her brother worries too much about her. Manisha takes the chance to reveal she is ill, But that doesn't mean Rudd has to devote his entire life to her problem. Shortly after, one of the tank's old colleagues challenges him to a one-on-one just like in the old days. So after Rudd fights with Phil, the two of them are about to face each other. Thus, the duels are about to begin, and the two fighters are excited about the chance to show some things they couldn't do in a simulation. Phil suggests a victory rule, stipulating that the fighter who loses the most defense points loses the fight, and Rudd accepts the conditions. When the duel begins, neither of them takes the first step, as they are not exactly the type to rely on massive attacks or absurd speed. Still, someone needed to advance, and Phil is the one who steps up, attacking with her two-handed sword and showing Rudd that the woman's hand is heavy, so he can't let his guard down. He knows that if he takes a hit like that, he won't be able to get up again. For this reason, he continues to defend himself until he can think of a counterattack strategy. Interestingly, Avantia's guards are usually young people who don't have much space elsewhere and end up in the city's defense corps. But in the case of these two, the story is different. Both are well known for being extremely skilled, so Rudd and Phil are clear examples of a duel that is always interesting to watch. Phil delivers another powerful blow to the Squire, and the force unbalances him. Feeling confident, she delivers another blow to knock Rudd down. But as he is aware of his new abilities, he raises his shield to drain the attacker's defense. After the sword strike, Phil quickly realizes that her body is weakened, so she falls to the ground. Even though her defense is at level 2,500, someone managed to knock her down, so the audience is truly impressed with this Squire's capability. Phil gets up and admires Rudd's trump card, and she can't help but ask what technique that was. He explains that it's the life conversion, which allows him to convert lost defense into energy. Although he can't use it all the time, in some moments it can be the ability that turns the tide. After the result, the two of them greet each other amicably, and Rudd realizes that now he can participate in offensive strategies instead of just raising his giant shield to block enemy attacks. Next, Rudd calls his colleague to fulfill his promise of facing him in battle after Phil, but the boy makes the excuse that he remembered he had another commitment. Everyone acknowledges the tank's strength, including Luna and Minicia, but the Squire's younger sister recalls moments when she wished she could be as strong as him. Back to the memory where she was on a staircase, everyone whispered about her having an incurable disease, asserting that only Rudd would survive such a situation. Minicia coughed intensely due to her illness, and people predicted that she wouldn't last much longer. In this exact moment of suffering, as everyone speculated that the girl simply wouldn't make it, her brother appeared, embracing her and showing that all was not lost. At that moment, Minicia woke up and realized it was just a dream. She saw Luna sleeping beside her. This brought relief, and she was certain that her brother would always be there to protect her from all harm. Nevertheless, she still worried about his happiness. After all, without the burden of taking care of his sick sister, Rudd might have a much more peaceful life, doing the things he wanted without the constant concern for his ailing sibling. On the following day, Rudd greets Minicia with a good morning, but the youngest seems a bit strange, avoiding the young man at all costs and insisting that she doesn't need help while setting the breakfast table. At that moment, Luna arrives, apologizing for not arriving in time to help, but Minicia doesn't really care and teases the girl about her messy hair in the morning. However, jokes aside, Luna is genuinely feeling bad for thinking she's not helping enough. She feels like she's only receiving help without giving anything in return. Rudd reassures her that it's not the case and that such thoughts are nonsense, but Luna insists that she's learning a lot from them and may not be able to repay all that knowledge. Speaking of which, the girl notices Rudd reading a newspaper and comments on how knowledgeable they both are. In the end, she wants to know who taught them everything they know. Rudd then shares a story from the time when he and Minicia lived on the streets. During that period, there was a learning system that allowed street children to regain a dignified life. Surprisingly, in those years, the nobles had a more collective mindset, and many were concerned about the future of society, to the extent of financing initiatives for the education and rehabilitation of minors living on the streets. That's how Rudd and Minicia had the opportunity to access an important institution like the Knight Academy, and it was their salvation. However, not all moments from that period were good memories for those present. For example, Minicia remembers being bullied at the academy because everyone thought her brother was wasting his life taking care of his younger sister. Rudd brings the girl back to reality, asking if she needs anything from the market since he's about to leave. Minicia says no, and the Squire leaves. With this opportunity, Minicia goes back to her school days, remembering when Rudd was extremely popular, and everyone expected him to become a great knight because he had an enviable physique and always scored the highest grades. Despite this, memories of the girls commenting on him resurfaced when they discussed how his paths closed due to Minicia's condition. Deep down, she agreed with those girls. Rudd was a prodigious boy becoming just a babysitter, and it hurt her to think that her brother would be wasting a brilliant future because of her. In the midst of Minicia's reminiscences, Luna goes upstairs to check on her friend. When she hears that Manisha is stuck in some bad memories from the past, Luna takes her hand and continues to listen attentively. Manisha then asks what Luna would do if she knew someone was wasting their life for her. The little homunculus responds that she doesn't know if someone would go to that extent for her. But if they did, maybe the happiest life that person could lead is by doing so. After all, if someone is willing to sacrifice everything for you, then all that effort must be worth it. Having said that, Luna advises Manisha to talk to her brother about it, as it might comfort her to know that you rescued an illegal homunculus, indicating that he probably doesn't think the same way as others. Despite this, Manisha reveals that she doesn't know how to deal with her brother because she feels guilty for thinking she's abusing his kindness too much. In the end, she distances herself from him and doesn't resolve this issue, leaving her head in a state of confusion. Speaking of Rudd, the Squire returns from the street with some groceries, and Luna takes the opportunity to insist that Manisha opens up to him about what she's feeling. So the two girls go downstairs, and Manisha says she has something important to ask her brother. But when the time comes to speak, she starts sweating and questioning whether Rudd might realize he's wasting his life and abandon her. Luna then holds her friend's hand again, and she feels more secure to express herself. Therefore, she gathers courage and asks why Rudd saved her when she was abandoned. Rudd responds that it's because Manisha saved him once when they were little, and the other kids called him scary because he was big and had a stern face. While all the kids were afraid and never played with Rudd for this reason, Manisha was always by his side and never acted like she cared about his size. It's because of this special affection they developed that the tank chose to always protect his little sister and feels happy and motivated to help her with everything. With this revelation, Manisha bursts into tears and confesses that she always thought the opposite, that Rudd was wasting his life doing this. Having said that, she hugs her brother tightly and apologizes for thinking that way. Rudd, in turn, thanks Luna. The girl replies that she didn't do anything to help, but Manisha adds that without her, she might have spent her whole life thinking about it and never had the courage to tell the truth to her brother. Not knowing how to handle compliments, Luna changes the subject and informs them that she's going to make lunch, while the two siblings decide to help. Until someone knocks on the door, and despite being irritated by someone interrupting this happy family moment, Rudd opens the door and sees Nin, his old friend from the previous group he was a part of. The girl managed to get some time off and decided to visit the tank. Rudd is surprised that Kaigla's allowed her time off, but Nin explains that she now works in a church, having left the hero group. After Rudd left, they couldn't handle the labyrinths the same way because their defense level dropped too much during the fight and they couldn't maintain the pace. On one occasion, they were having a lot of trouble with a monster until another one appeared on the battlefield. Kaiglas tried to solve the situation with a life explosion, but using this ability drained 1,000 points of his defense. Then he finally recognizes that in Rudd's presence, he could maintain a good defense level to stay alive in the war. However, it wasn't the time to lament, so the alternative was to fight. Arrogant as always, Kaiglas tried to prove to everyone that he made the right choice by expelling the old tank, so he unleashed a powerful blow that eliminated the first monster. Despite this, the rest of the group thinks that this floor is too high level for them, and the monsters keep respawning because they're not killing them fast enough. But the leader's pride doesn't allow him to admit the disadvantage, so he orders the group not to retreat. Thus, he tries once again to activate the life explosion ability, but this time, it doesn't work. Next, the creature gets Kaiglas with its axe and eliminates his entire defense. Thus, the knight was completely exposed to the attacks of that gigantic monster, so he tries to escape like a rat, but the monster is faster, and with the first punch Kaiglas takes, his body suffers from broken bones and seriously affected joints. Lying on the ground and completely helpless, Kaiglas begs for his life until his group rescues him and leaves the dungeon. On the next day, the team leader belittles the evasion tanks, shouting that they tarnished his reputation by not meeting expectations. The girls lower their heads and apologize, but Nin takes offense on behalf of her comrades and rebuts the leader, stating that the fault lies not with them but with Kaiglas himself. He has become increasingly unproductive, wandering through the city's bars instead of training and strengthening his muscles and techniques. Furthermore, Kaiglas relied solely on the life explosion, but now that Rudd is absent, the leader can't maintain the same form as before, leaving the rest of the group in the lurch. Since Kaiglas' ability intensity depends on defense loss, the day the strongest blow was dealt was when the tank lost all defense in the labyrinth. As the former comrade's defense was 9,999, Kaiglas' life explosion became ridiculously powerful. In other words, it was the Squire carrying the team, not the leader. Despite the stern rebuke, Kaiglas continues to grumble that he's the best of all, and no one should question that. One by one, his group mates leave him, abandoning the team. After revealing the story behind her departure, Nin apologizes for not discovering sooner that Rudd was holding the group's defense. At the same time, Rudd feels guilty for not being aware of his own abilities, blaming himself for not discovering it in time. But Nin, not one to cry over spilled milk, tries to focus on the present and forget the past. Soon, she meets the other residents of the house and after introducing herself, announces that she will spend a few days in the city checking out the orchard, so they might see each other around. However, upon hearing that Nin would be staying in Manisha for a few days, Rudd warns that there is no suitable hotel in the area for accommodation. Manisha offers the girl to stay at their house, even in her own room. Hearing this, Rudd warns that the girl is the daughter of a duke, so she might not accept just any place to stay. But the noblewoman doesn't like being treated that way and argues with Rudd for the way he spoke of her, only to accept his sister's invitation right after. In the end, it is decided that Nin will stay in Rudd's room while the tank sleeps in the living room. However, the healer insists that she wouldn't mind sleeping with the Squire. Rudd immediately asks the girl to stop playing around with such things, and she laughs, but then admits that she would in fact like it if he wants it too. Despite the high spirits, Phil knocks on the guy's door, bringing trouble, warning that a never-before-seen monster has been found in the orchard. So everyone heads to the conflict area, and the creature's trail could be seen everywhere, with fallen trees in every corner. Rudd apologizes for involving Nin in the mess, but the healer insists on reminiscing about the old times with another group fight. In the next moment, they see the monster, and no one knows exactly if it's a wolf, a bear, or whatever, as the creature's magical essence disguises its true form. For this reason, Nin dispels the creature's black miasma and reveals its identity. However, despite the effort, Rudd comments that the biological structure of this animal doesn't resemble anything he has seen before, giving the impression that the magical essence has taken over it, manipulating even its body. Despite the mystery regarding this enemy, Phil's father goes crazy and charges at the monster, only to get a swat back that throws Vuld far away. While the old man apologizes for his impatience, Rudd sees the monster attacking and uses provocation to draw the opponent towards him. Then he asks all the healers to cast healing spells on him to tank the creature's attack. With this defensive line, the other knights could attack, but the first offensive wave was easily defeated, causing Rudd to lose defense. At that moment, Luna and Nin cast spells to restore the defender's status. With this kind of support, Rudd fully assumes leadership of the troops and tells everyone not to be afraid because his ability called Sacrifice Shield allows him to withstand the defense damage for everyone. Upon hearing the description of this technique, the army faces the most powerful tank magic they have ever seen, considering that they can attack without worrying about any kind of damage. So this advantage boosts the troops' morale and everyone feels motivated for the attack. At that moment, the repeated attacks from Manisha's forces hit the creature with force, and in a short time it realizes that it won't withstand this offensive for much longer and decides to flee toward the city. Some long-range fighters tried to stop the enemy, but all attempts were unsuccessful. Until Luna summons a giant stone wall that makes the animal hit its head. This trick allowed Rudd to get closer, but as the beast felt cornered, he needed to be cautious not to kick the bucket. With that in mind, he retreats and decides to use the 20,000 damage points he suffered so far in a single attack. He jumps towards the enemy and uses the life conversion ability. The impact was so surreal that it caused a deep crater several meters long. With this, Rudd begins to wonder if he ended up causing more damage than the monster itself. Despite this, the army congratulates the tank, and Vuld praises the fact that they defeated the threat without suffering any losses. On the next day, Rudd is searching the newspapers for any news about the defeated creature, as it possessed 2 magic stones, and he wanted to know the reason behind it. In the meantime, Misha sits on her brother's lap and asks him to read the newspaper for her. Feeling embarrassed, the tank argues that she reads very well, but the youngest sibling uses her charm to get him to fulfill her request. So he reads an article stating that many labyrinths have been appearing lately, and one of them is in Avantia. In another article, he learns that the former hero Kaglis invades a new labyrinth. Manisha recalls that this guy was the leader of her brother's old group, and Nin wasn't a fan of him because he used to belittle Rudd. Beyond that, the tank mentions that Nin has other very personal reasons for disliking Kaglis' behavior. Manisha interprets this as the healer having feelings for her brother and asks if he pretends not to notice because of her illness. Rudd replies that he's afraid of getting too involved in a relationship because in many other occasions he ended up getting attacked more than he should, and it distracts him from his responsibilities in the labyrinths. Despite this, Manisha believes that her brother can balance both aspects, and it would be important for him to be close to someone he cares about. However, she only asks that any relationship he might have doesn't make him forget about his little sister. Later, Phil gathers several fighters from Avantia to defeat the chameleon Kong recently spotted there. As they usually inhabit more southern areas, such a creature has never been seen in the city before. For this reason, Phil wants to investigate the cause of the monster's appearance. The first clue is the belief that this Kong came from some labyrinth, so the first step is to look for an entrance nearby. Meanwhile, Luna admires the beautiful weapons Rudd is carrying, and he explains that they were crafted by two talented blacksmiths, a father with his daughter. The sword has the enchantment ability, allowing the magic stone's mana to change based on an element and be used to enchant the weapon. To demonstrate, he draws the sword and explains that he can cast spells of some elements, but they aren't strong enough for real damage in battle. However, when this flame magic is directed to the sword, it immediately becomes a fire type, giving Rudd an advantage against monsters weak to that element. Observing this performance, a rank C warrior comments that such power is being wasted in the hands of an F rank like Rudd, calling the Squire an old man and telling him to go home and avoid burning in the sun. Luna gets angry and asks if Rudd isn't going to do anything about it, but he calmly explains that he prefers to be underestimated than overestimated. Still, the homunculus doesn't like seeing his friend being humiliated like that until Nin joins the conversation and comments that Rudd is being belittled again because of his reluctance to rank up. She adds that he's so strong that he could be named a saint by a knight. Hearing this, the arrogant warriors group is impressed and asks if it's really true. Rudd explains that it is true because he was occasionally called by the guild to assume that position. Despite this merit, Rudd privately thinks that he became a knight to save his sister and has no ambition beyond that. At that moment, the Chimelian Kong appears, attacking the Vigilance's sub-leader twice, but she manages to block the blows without taking damage, making Rudd recognize that Phil is an above-average adventurer. Then he steps up for the fight, using his taunt ability on the gorilla, making it direct all its attacks at the tank. With this, the rest of the troop engages the enemy, and everything seems under control. But for some reason, Rudd feels that something is not right. Analyzing the opponent, he thinks that by the abilities Roar and Behavior, this Kong would be a tank if it were human. With one of its roars, the animal summons two more Kongs to the battle, catching the men by surprise. They try to regroup to come up with a new strategy while Rudd tells them to retreat, attempting to hold all three opponents with his shield. Phil is shocked by this ambush and threatens to lose control, but Rudd reminds her that she is the leader and such behavior can affect the rest of the men. So he asks Phil to lift her head and trust that she will find a solution to this problem. Soon, she composes herself and orders her troop to get back into formation. Rudd uses his taunt ability, while the rank C warrior finds it too dangerous to face three enemies of that level at once. One Kong tries to hit Rudd with a punch, but the tank absorbs the blow. Witnessing this, Luna promises to make the giant monkey regret attacking her master, then uses a wind shot spell, causing deep cuts in the beast. With that enemy weakened, the rank C warriors group decides to focus on this Kong to eliminate it once and for all, while a second one also tries to attack the tank. Rudd defends himself and uses his fire-type sword to counterattack, since this type of creature is weak against this element. After bringing down the Kong with flames, Phil delivers the final blow to finish the opponent. The last of the animals feels cornered, then attacks Rudd with all its strength. At the moment when the tank protects himself with a shield, Nin immobilizes the Kong with an ice spell, and Luna weakens it with another wind shot. Finally, Rudd uses his fire sword to seal the deal. After the battle, the soldiers of Avantia celebrate the victory while acknowledging that they wouldn't have been able to do it without Rudd. In the meantime, the rank C warrior approaches and expresses admiration for the fact that the tank didn't get scared in such an intense situation. Rudd responds that the role he plays allows no retreat. Then the boy apologizes for mocking the Squire, but Rudd understands the boy's attitude, as the rank is an indicator of a knight's skill, and assuming that an F-rank fighter might not be the strongest makes total sense. After that, the bodies of the Kongs dissipate as if they were monsters in a maze, and at that moment, Nin points to an entrance of one of these dungeons. At night, Phil announces to the people that a maze has been found in Avantia, and the hope of it bringing prosperity is so high that the population organizes a party just to celebrate this fact. Luna and Minitia discuss how this could solve Avantia's population decline problem, but Rudd seems more reserved in his celebration. In the meantime, a young warrior from the city approaches and invites Minitia for a drink, and Rudd takes on a mischievous demeanor and decides to accompany the lovebirds on this outing. Shortly after, Nin arrives and greets Luna, who is concerned that her master seems sad even with the discovery of the maze. In response, Nin comments that mazes can come with all kinds of problems, and maybe that's what is worrying Rudd. For example, if some monsters are not defeated inside, there is a chance they could escape, as was the case with those Chimelian Kongs. In other words, if this happens frequently, the local population will live in danger. And while some places are fortunate to have qualified adventurers, not all regions are as lucky. In some instances, there are so many lousy adventurers that some of them even become stalkers of the city's beautiful girls. Hearing this, Luna asks how adventurers should organize themselves to prevent such things. Rudd interrupts and explains that they should form clans, which are the assembly of various groups. Adventurers organized in this way are officially recognized by the nation and are responsible for the defense of the city, similar to knights. Sub-regions do not have this clan structure, like Avancia, for example, which is a very small city. In these cases, ill-intentioned adventurers may emerge and worsen the situation with the maze. Despite this, Nin makes it clear that she will always be there to protect Rudd in any dangerous situation. And then Phil takes advantage of having had a few extra drinks and cozies up to the tank. The next morning, Rudd is on patrol when he encounters two young people ready to fight. He cracks his knuckles and asks if they're really going to do this, causing the two kids to run away. Soon after, Nin arrives, praising her friend's morale, and joins him on duty. While walking through the streets, they see that the city is already full of new adventurers, many of whom know Rudd and Nin, greeting them and thanking them for the work they have been doing. However, the moment of peace ends when another fight breaks out nearby. This time, Boo, the third of the Black Dragon Fang, and Gurley, the third of the White Tiger Claw, both A-rank adventurers, are face to face. Knowing that a fight between fighters of this level cannot end well, Rudd asks the two to calm down. Despite this, the opponents are determined to defend the honor of their clans. Before getting into a fight, Boo asks Rudd which of the two clans has permission to enter the city. The tank responds that neither of them does if they continue causing trouble for no reason in Avancia. This blunt response infuriates one of Boo's subordinates, who attacks Rudd. Rudd easily grabs the kid's arm. Next, Nin clarifies to the two A-rank adventurers that they need to resolve the situation peacefully, or she won't be as patient as Rudd. The Squire himself states that this city has rules, so if they choose to fight, they will also have to face him. This is enough for the adventurers to back down and apologize, only to then invite Rudd to join their respective clans, causing another beginning of a dispute. But soon Rudd draws the attention of the two again and tells them to leave. As they leave, the Squire acknowledges that adventurers organized in clans are more aware of when to respect rules, unlike wandering adventurers. Nin comments that she was surprised to see those two trying to recruit Rudd, and he explains that he has no intention of joining any group. He once sought a clan that could function as a family, but that time has passed. In the meantime, a soldier summons Rudd to the headquarters because Vuld, Phil's father, wishes to speak with him. Upon arriving there, Rudd is informed that the lord of the city has contacted Vuld. Upon learning the latest news from Avancia, he decided to give the adventurer tank two options for the path in the region. The first option is to form a clan and lead it, as all the inhabitants recognize Rudd as an important and protective figure, worthy of the trust of the population. Rudd considers refusing the proposal for fear of losing focus on Manicia's healing. However, at the same time, once she recovers, Rudd would love to have a peaceful life in this quiet city with his sister. Before he can elaborate further on his reasoning, Vuld informs him that the second option is to destroy the Avancia maze. Despite being an indicator of prosperity, gaining resources from this type of dungeon requires precautions that Avancia cannot manage at the moment, considering the kingdom is suffering from multiple mazes simultaneously, and having one open and unprotected is a significant risk. Therefore, if Rudd does not want to form a clan and manage the city, the Lord asks the Squire to join the expedition into the Avancia maze. Despite the pressure, Vuld makes it clear that Rudd doesn't have to make this decision now but wants an answer as soon as possible. So the tank sets out while reflecting on the situation until he comes across two other men looking for a fight. Rudd tells them to stop, but this time, the troublemakers don't pay much attention to the adventurer. This makes him consider that only leading a clan could give him the prestige necessary to become an undisputed authority in Avancia. Furthermore, Luna arrives running and asks Rudd to come home right now because Manicia is very ill. Upon entering his sister's room, Grandma Jai is taking care of her and informs him that Manicia has only had a slight deterioration, but nothing to worry about. With this, the girl finds her brother's excessive concern amusing and asks him if the city is okay, but Rudd doesn't want her to worry about it and asks her to rest for a while. As soon as she closes her eyes, Rudd reflects that he cannot stay away from Avancia for too long if he is the leader of a clan, and perhaps this will prevent him from finding the secret treasure, which will allow him to use the granted wish to heal Manicia. For this reason, he decides to destroy the maze. Nin asks if he is sure about this, as this decision will hinder Avancia's development, but between the city and his sister, Rudd doesn't hesitate to choose Manicia. Observing his friend's suffering, Luna presumes that leading a clan doesn't necessarily mean having to personally take care of all the city matters. In the event Rudd can appoint a substitute to handle things in his absence, Luna volunteers to take on that role. In addition to the homunculus, Nin also offers to join forces for Avancia, and soon after, the protagonist's sister rises from her bed. As usual, he extends his hand for the girl to lean on, but Manicia declines, stating that she is no longer the child he always needs to protect. Similar to Luna, she also loves the city and would be very happy if her brother gave more importance to Avancia in this case. With that, Rudd makes his final decision and resolves to give his utmost to protect both the city and his sister simultaneously. Days later, Rudd had already started forming his clan, but he was summoned by the adventurers who were exploring the Avantia labyrinth, which included his former team members. Soon, the tank and his companion Nin reunited with their old team, and the members introduced themselves. First Lilia, who mentioned she hadn't seen Rudd since he was expelled, and then the younger twin appeared, named Lily. Due to a genetic abnormality, the two had different eye colors. Next, Sogol, the churchmate, introduced himself and tried to console Rudd, saying it must have been tough for him to be kicked out. And lastly, Luna timidly introduced herself to the group. Then inside a tent was Keglis, all bandaged up. He greeted his former Squire and mentioned how long it had been since they last saw each other. Nin's initial reaction was to berate the knight for calling Rudd back after what he did, but the tank himself calmed her down, saying he was okay with it now. However, he quickly asked Keglis for explanations, as he probably wasn't summoned just for old time's sake. Thus, Keglis revealed that he encountered a self-aware guardian yesterday. At that moment, Rudd recalled that no one could communicate with the guardians they faced so far, even when they were humanoid. Since Keglis was incapacitated, he suggested Rudd should go back and finish the mission, therefore he should stop complaining and get on with it. The twins tried to lighten the tense atmosphere by suggesting that what Keglis meant was that making Rudd continue from where he left off was the only way to apologize, but the leader didn't admit to it. For this reason, he used the tank's need to find the secret treasure to convince him to fulfill this role, and he even confessed that with Rudd, he understood what gave him strength to fight, which was the defensive ability of the Squire. Finally, Keglis humbly asked if the tank would take the lead in this mission or not, and he accepted. Before the team set off, Keglis apologized for everything he caused and asked Rudd not to die in combat. So everyone entered the cave and stepped onto a magic circle. And as Luna was confused about the reason, Nin explained that this circle would teleport them all to the first floor of the dungeon. With that, they were transported to a huge open area, and Luna found it incredible that such a large place was inside the labyrinth, complete with its own sun. Rudd explained that this sun didn't move, so Luna shouldn't try to tell the time by it, as the space inside a labyrinth was distorted, so things impossible to happen outside occurred as if they were simple inside. As the magic circle disappeared, Luna worried about the return, but Nin explained that Lily had an ability called Dungeon Walk, and unlike the standard procedure, where you had to find the magic circles scattered around the dungeon to move between floors, Dungeon Walk allowed the group to travel between the floors they had already visited. However, only 6 people could be teleported in this way. In addition to this spell, Min had another similar one, which was an emergency escape magic. As soon as the healer invoked this spell as a demonstration, Luna tried to replicate the method and learned instantly how to use the same ability, and Rudd thought that maybe this was a battle talent of the homunculi. Shortly after, Lilia noticed the arrival of 3 Chimelian Kongs coming towards the team, so Rudd positioned her and Sugul in the front line, while Nin and Lily provided support from behind. Luna was to position herself at a safe distance to protect everyone, and Rudd would be the shield of the group. He provoked the front Kong, and the second one attacked Sugul, who dealt a painful blow to the enemy's arm. Meanwhile, the third beast tried to attack the supports, but Lilia arrived just in time to knock down the monster. As the strategy was working, Rudd instructed everyone to maintain formation until victory arrived. And as the team ascended the floors, they were being spied on by some unknown swordsmen, who admitted that that group had a certain talent. When they reached the level where the twins encountered the Guardian, they were attacked by 2 Filosaurus, and Rudd noticed that they were faster than the ones usually found in mazes and presumed that maybe the Guardian had strengthened these creatures. So Rudd called Sugul and Lilia to deal with the 2 Filosaurus, while the rest of the team found the magic circle. Rudd provoked the enemies to focus on him while the others attacked, and meanwhile Nin found the magic circle, so the group leader ordered everyone to retreat there. And according to the mysterious swordsman, this was a wise move, as he eagerly awaited for those individuals to arrive soon. Therefore, he watched the group reach the 7th floor, then the 8th and the 9th, until they reached the top where he was. On the penultimate level of the dungeon, Nin warned that the next one would be the 10th and final floor, and Rudd thanked the group for their help with his selfish goals. However, they all knew the importance of family and knew that the tank was doing all this for his sister, so they positioned themselves at the teleporter to the last floor and extended their hand to their leader once again, because the real test was yet to come. Rudd was well aware of this, and so he stood up and joined his friends in the magic circle until they were taken to the final stage of the labyrinth. Arriving there, an open field stretched as far as the eye could see, and a storm raged in the dark sky of the landscape. Approaching the group, the Guardian applauded the intruder's performance and emphasized how impressively they had fought, as he never expected such powerful adventurers to come to him. Then he revealed himself to be the self-aware guardian of the Adventure Labyrinth, known as Marius. Rude remembered that this guardian was seen on the 5th floor last time, so he replied that since this group now was much stronger, he thought of waiting on the 10th floor so he wouldn't have to hold back, as that floor was his domain, and there he could unleash his real strength. Immediately after, Marius delivered a blow of great strength and speed to the team's shield bearer, who felt his arms being torn from his body. As he managed to block such a powerful blow, Marius became excited about the challenge that lay ahead. Rudd tried to convince the Guardian to talk because he didn't intend to use violence, but Marius ignored him and continued attacking with a clash of blades because, according to him, that's how real men converse, through ignorance. Rudd knows he can't let his guard down or he'll be eliminated in the blink of an eye, so he announces to the group to postpone negotiations and return to battle formation. Each member tries to strike the enemy, but as Nin herself commented, it seems like this Guardian has eyes in the back of his head because it's not possible to escape so many consecutive attacks without getting scratched. Meanwhile, Marius acknowledges that the enemy group is very well organized, so he'll need to use his full strength, and when he does, he'll become a true monster. Therefore, if they want to live, he warns that the group must use their escape spells to leave at this moment. Rudd's team trembles at the base when Marius transforms into his creature version, including the leader, but Rudd would never think of retreating, bearing in mind that his dear sister depends on his success. He has to win, so he raises his shield to withstand blows so strong they resonate the steel of his shield like a church bell. Meanwhile, Lily lends her wind power to her sister to use against the monster, so Lilia leaps toward the spell and attacks the opponent with the power of the wind. Sobel asks to take turns defending the group with Rudd, so each one provokes him for some time, thus the leader wouldn't be overwhelmed. So he provokes the Guardian, who charges against the Church Knight, and with that, the defense of all group members plummets. Rudd understands that one more blow from this monster could kill anyone, so he orders everyone to avoid being hit by the opponent. Meanwhile, Lily and Luna must use their support spells to maintain the front line. With the tactic defined, the leader assumes the defense once again, calling the enemy to himself with a new provocation. At this moment, memories of the group thinking about strategies emerge, where everyone understands that they won't be able to avoid a long fight against this Guardian, so it will be a test of endurance. Luna is worried if the team will handle this challenge, and Lily believes that with Rudd, this is possible because his sacrifice shield concentrates all damage on the tank, and life conversion will turn the damage absorbed during a long fight into unbeatable damage power. With this in mind, Lily thinks everyone should endure the fight until they have enough strength for a very powerful final attack. And by now, the team had managed to accumulate enough damage for Lilia to tear off some bones from the Guardian. Still, Luna is concerned about the effort the attackers are putting against this enemy, and fears someone might fall into that rhythm. Then Nin arrives and says that it really is difficult to stay in the rear, but Luna's role is still to cooperate from afar, since the front line will only stand as long as the support does its job. Luna understands and returns to her role, healing Rudd and Subal, who notice that Marius's movements are getting slower, so maybe he's getting tired. Rudd analyzes that he has already absorbed 30,000 points of damage, and if he hits the opponent with this, it should cause some damage. He jumps to get Marius, but when he gets close, the monster retaliates with his sword. Fortunately, Luna casts a spell that prevents the Guardian's attack, and with that, Rudd doesn't miss the chance and delivers a sword blow with the life conversion ability, applying all the damage received by the group in one massive attack of his weapon. Despite this, when the dust settles, the Guardian seems intact, but Rude sees that it's not quite like that because Marius's skeletal body is suffering some aftermath from the powerful blow he received. For this reason, the tank believes that another life conversion could end the fight. But this time, the monster seems more willing to keep his attackers away from him by invoking a magic that floats gigantic rocks and throws them at the opposing team. They manage to protect themselves, but Lily suffers from the force of the impact and loses the ability to fight. Meanwhile, Sokol takes a heavy blow and is dragged several meters away. He tries to convince the leader that he can continue fighting, but his hands tremble as he wields his sword. Rudd looks around and feels like he's losing control of the situation and reflects if he really wants to put everyone at risk for a goal that is his alone, so he orders everyone to retreat. Nin tries to convince the tank otherwise, but he imposes himself as the group's leader and maintains his decision while blocking another powerful attack from Marius. Nin doesn't want her friend to give up the goal now that they've come this far, and Subal is back on the battlefield, showing that he's ready to fight to the death. Meanwhile, the image of Manisha runs through the protagonist's mind again as he thinks once more if he should really withdraw from this battle. Then Lily and Lilia use their fusion ability and transform themselves. They attack Marius with incredible speed and strength, while Luna and Nin continue with support, and Subal's absorption shield is finally broken, accumulating once again an absurd amount of damage for Rudd. Therefore, he applies another blow with life conversion on Marius, who almost falls to the ground but manages to rise again and counterattack with his sword. Rudd understands that taking one more blow of that weight will break his shield, but he's willing to endure that pressure and accumulate the damage from this attack in his last attempt to retaliate with another life conversion. Therefore, as soon as Marius's giant sword hits the Squire, he uses his counterattack ability and evaporates the creature with the power he accumulated. However, Marius appears again in his human form, laughing and saying that all this was quite fun, although he doubts he can move, so Rude can do whatever he wants with him, as he won't be able to react, reminding that everything only ends after Marius is eliminated. However, Rude returns to his initial posture and remembers that he only wanted to dialogue, so he asks the Guardian if it's true that he has the sacred treasure of the labyrinth, which is said to grant any wish. Marius takes a magic stone out of his pocket and hands it to the Squire, stating that it is capable of performing miracles when infused with mana. After being used, the stone will shatter, so it must be used in the best possible way. After that, Marius supposes that it was only that which Rude wanted, so he informs that now he can be destroyed. Despite that, Rude plans to keep the labyrinth running because Avancia can benefit from a controlled dungeon, so he offers dungeon command to Marius. Pleased with the level of challenge the group imposed on him, the Guardian is delighted with the proposal and promises to return to fulfill his duty, hoping to face Rude on the battlefield again one day. In response, Rudd jokes that he prefers that day never to come, and Marius lets out a genuine laugh. In the late afternoon, Rudd arrives home and hands the magic stone to his sister, Anisha. He explains the artifact's function, but the youngest refuses to accept the gift, thinking that Rude should be the one to use it. Rudd reveals that if he were to make a wish to the stone, the result would be the same. Touched, Anisha asks the magic stone to fulfill her greatest desire, causing the stone to dissipate in a bright light. Afterward, Rudd asks if his sister noticed any difference, and she responds that she feels more energetic. Before, she would run out of breath just twirling, but now she dances like a ballerina. Seeing this, Rudd hugs his sister tightly and believes that he can fully heal her one day by maintaining his efforts in labyrinths around the world. Everyone thought she would die anyway, but looking at the girl now, Rudd has never seen her so well before. Therefore, everything he has done so far has not been a mistake. The next day, Rudd notices that the construction of a guild alongside the Avancia maze has attracted many adventurers to the city, and two old acquaintances of the protagonist, Boo and Girly, arrive commenting that the tank seems a bit pale since taking over the clan leadership, so they ask if he needs any help managing things. Later, Rudd meets with Nin, while commenting that recruiting more people for the clan was a great idea because they need help managing everything. Rudd agrees, since Manisha is in charge of the office paperwork, but he can't push her too much. The Squire sought Lilia's help to recruit new members, but she feels she doesn't have enough knowledge to teach someone, so maybe it would be a good idea for Rude to seek equal alliances with other clans to facilitate the entry of new qualified people. Lilia talked about the alliance being equal because only then would Avancia have autonomy to establish itself in the region without having to answer to anyone. But to achieve this, first Rudd has to think about what the city clan can offer to the allies to keep everyone on equal footing. However, Rudd's guild still only consists of him, Nin, Luna, and Manisha, so they need to brainstorm what they could give immediately in exchange for the equal alliance. Soon, Nin is trying to think of something interesting, but Rude thinks that all they can offer at the moment are combat services. Furthermore, he spread the news that he expelled the maze guardian, but only to protect Marius, which means they will need to find someone to lead the guild while Rudd is away. The current leader is trying to convince Lilia to take on this role, and maybe that will happen in the future. Faced with these points, Nin praises Rudd's intelligence and leadership, while lamenting the fact that this clan will probably become quite large in a short time, which will make them have much less time together. In the meantime, Marius arrives on the scene asking Rudd to manage the maze, but the leader begins to lose patience for not being able to waste time with these things now. So Marius threatens to join the clan to end this discussion once and for all, but that's not the only thing worrying Rudd. In fact, he wants to know what a maze guardian is doing wandering freely around the city, since he probably harbors tremendous internal hatred towards humanity for everything it caused him throughout his existence. Listening to that, Marius questions if Rude really wants to know what he feels, and the tank and the healer prepare to hear Marius's painful and haunting story from the past. But instead, he simply states that he has no quarrel with humans, so he wants to help while Rudd manages the maze. Faced with this, a leader agrees, even though he had said before that he would never do it. Soon, Marius begins to teach his companion everything he needs to know to manage the dungeon, and first of all, they access a portal from where the swordsman handles all maze matters. The lake in front of them displays the entire interior of the place, and Rude can use it to place monsters and alter the cave's construction. The maze operates on a point system that you can damage by attacking adventurers, and with that, it is possible to summon new monsters and make enhancements to the location. Given this explanation, Rudd has the brilliant idea of using his shield absorption to accumulate a bunch of points at once. Then Marius teaches how to place monsters in the dungeon, but as soon as he throws a goblin at a crowd, Rudd scolds him for scaring off adventurers. Soki asks what other type of creature they can summon, and the Guardian says that so far they can use goblins, axe orcs, khans, and chameleons. These monsters can only be replicated from originals acquired through creation. If you build trust with the monsters, it will help you in times of need. They may even like you. Shortly thereafter, Marius shows a creature that costs 1,000,000 points, which is an example of when you use a grimoire and summon a random creature, like a Gasha. And to show an example, he teaches Rudd to make his first Gasha, and with that, he summons a small slime that, even though it's just a demonstration, Rudd knows that over time he could summon S-level creatures. Therefore, as the maze evolves and gains more variety of monsters, more and more adventurers will emerge and generate resources for Avancia, which will be used to develop the local clan. In the meantime, the slime headbutts the tank's can and isolates him far away, generating 1,000 points. With that, Marius celebrates that maybe they have generated a rare slime, and Rude pets the little creature while thanking him for the idea he gave. So the tank gets up and takes over the dungeon management, but before that, he needed to decide what kind of maze to build to attract more adventurers. As a bonus, Rudd takes home the slime that didn't leave him for a second, but the girls didn't seem so happy with this news. So Rudd reminds that Manisha always wanted a pet, and soon shows them that he can be more adorable than he looks. After a while, she and Luna get used to the slime and decide to give it a name. And remembering that Rude found a name for her right away, the homunculus asks if the tank hadn't thought of one for this slime yet. Rudd thought of a name because of the Lunfia petal that Luna carried, so the creature would be called Lime. Far away, Boo is in the Black Dragon Fang clan, asking the leader if he really is going to ally with the Avancia clan even though it is so backward. Meanwhile, Gurley is back to the White Tiger Claw clan, where its leader also seems excited to send an alliance invitation to Avancia. Days later, Rudd and his friends arrive in the city of Kield, a much larger place than the humble Avancia. Everyone was very excited for the ball that was coming up, organized by the two largest clans of the present, which displayed their flags all over the party. At that moment, Rude remembers a few days earlier, where he warns his comrades that they were invited to this very important ball. Everyone gets excited about the unique opportunity, but Nin seems a bit suspicious of the interest behind this invitation, thinking it might be a prank. With that, Rudd assesses that they really rejected the initial invitation for an equal alliance because they wanted Avancia as subordinate to them, but that's not the only problem. They demanded the healer from the Avancia clan, Nin, in exchange for cooperating with the development of the city. After all, Nin is widely known as Santa, and even the most remote clans have the desire to have someone like her by their side. Facing this, he cannot force the girl to stay in Avancia, but if she wishes to remain, even going against two clans of this caliber, Rudd promises not to yield the healer from his clan. Immediately, Nin asserts with conviction that she would never leave her clan, and Rude promptly states that he will reject the imposed conditions. However, it is crucial to emphasize that the Avancia Guild is going to the Kield Ball, knowing they are stepping into enemy territory. Obviously, most guests will be from the Black Dragon Fang and White Tiger Claw, so they need to be cautious. Still, Rudd cannot miss the opportunity to speak directly with the representatives of the two organizations. Analyzing the situation, Marius recalls that one day he accidentally encountered a self-aware guardian like himself in a Kield city labyrinth. Grasping the information, Rudd shakes the guardian for not mentioning this earlier, as it could be the key to completely healing his sister through another secret treasure. Soon, Nin remembers that not even the two largest clans managed to surpass the 50th floor of that labyrinth. Still, Rudd argues that their group has evolved significantly, now having the firepower of a guardian, the abilities of a homunculus, and Nin's exceptional healing gift. So Rudd knows it will be a significant challenge against the might of these rival organizations, but he will do everything he can to obtain the Kield Labyrinth secret treasure. With everything settled, the day of the ball arrives and the members showcase their attire for the important occasion. Nin wears a beautiful dress, which Rude agrees suits the healer perfectly. Luna chose a maid outfit she found, and Rude acknowledges her choice, knowing she prefers clothes that cover her chest. Lastly, the twins Lilia and Lily display their outfits, and Rude spends more time than necessary analyzing the dresses. Upon arriving at the celebration, the clan encounters an extravagant ballroom from the Black Dragon Fang, explaining why this organization leads alongside the White Tigers. Soon, other guests arrive, and Rude hears comments from other adventurers about Nin, the saint who now belongs to both the Dragon and Tiger guilds, leaving the tank infuriated. Nin asks the leader to stay calm, believing he will soon convince everyone otherwise, but Rude thinks it will be quite a challenge, even though he is capable. Later, Marius asks if he can approach the ball buffet, and soon everyone joins the Guardian to eat and break the ice in that fancy and strange place. Sometime later, the lights dim and spotlights reveal Ike, the vice leader of the Black Dragon Fang, and Cynthia, the vice leader of the White Tiger Claw. They present the celebration and bring a distinguished guest to the stage, Saint Nin. Angry at the insult, Rudd accompanies his companion to complain, and Ike comments that he never imagined this Saint One to become an adventurer. Nin responds that she always harbored that desire, but before the conversation develops, Rudd takes the lead, introducing himself as the leader of the Avantia clan, visibly protecting his healer. To belittle the Squire, Ike asks if he isn't the tank who was kicked out of Siglas, the hero's group. Ike recalls that Siglas always found the tank useless and advised kicking Rudd out of the team when asked about the group composition. After all, adventurers with such characteristics are useless in labyrinths, pretending to protect the rest of the group when they actually do nothing. Moreover, Ike emphasizes that evasion tanks are much more modern and efficient than the outdated ones. Therefore, under the circumstances, Ike allows himself to be very direct in his speech and invites Nin to join his clan, since it would be a waste of talent to stay in a small and irrelevant city with an incapable leader. However, Cynthia also needs to sell the idea of the White Tiger, as they too want a talented healer to invade the Keeled Labyrinth. Before she enters the discussion, Rudd frowns and cuts the conversation, stating that he won't allow either of them to lay a hand on Nin. With this decided, he reveals that his real intention in attending the ball is to request an alliance between Avantia and the Tigers and Dragons. Around the stage, all the guests laugh at the leader of this newcomer clan, while Ike responds that he cannot trust a clan led by a tank. Having said that, Nin loses patience and defends her friend, stating that he is the strongest tank in the world. In addition to her defense, Rude grabs a microphone and announces that the Avantia clan will invade the Keeled Labyrinth. It's okay for everyone to laugh at them, if he reminds them that the one who laughs laughs best. In the end, he promises to reach the 51st floor of the dungeon, something neither of the two largest clans has achieved to this day. Paying attention from the beginning, the leader of the Black Dragon Fang praises the spirited stance of the tank and criticizes the behavior of his vice leader, Ike, for always underestimating newcomers. He introduces himself as Gosh, and shaking hands with Rudd, the tank realizes that this man is extremely powerful. Then Gosh announces his intention to form an alliance with Avantia, as their clan will invade the Keeled Labyrinth. Similarly, this is the wish of Lutal, the leader of the White Tiger Claw, who has also been watching everything from the beginning. Thus, the two bosses emphasize that Rude should prove he is not just a barking dog, but one that bites, demonstrating the necessary trust for such important alliances. Later, at some Keeled accommodation, Marius praises his boss's speech at the ball, but Rude just wants to forget it and rest for a while. Still, the Guardian insists that they will conquer the labyrinth, and no one will laugh at them anymore. Afterward, Luna and Nin also celebrate the leader's stance, and especially Nin seems grateful for Rudd defending her on stage. With his friends in mind, Rudd feels that he is capable of conquering the dungeon with his group even in the face of such great difficulty. After that, he sets off on his way to his resting place. However, Lily interrupts the Squire and pulls him into her room because she couldn't tie the dress cords at the back. Rudd solves the problem, and the girl thanks him for being able to take care of her sister with style from now on. With everything resolved, he prepares to leave for good, but Lily pulls him again, showing that the dress story was just an excuse for something more serious. Soon, the girl reveals that she needed to vent about how she can't assert herself in the face of life's difficulties and show everyone her worth, just as the tank did in the middle of a giant guild ceremony. Therefore, she would like to be more like Rudd and Lilia, standing on her own instead of always depending on her sister for almost everything. As she has always protected Lily, even taking responsibility in battles where Lily can only stay in the rear while her sister takes care of the front line. Rudd argues that this is because Lily uses magic and therefore should fight from the rear. However, the girl responds that her sister also uses magic but close to the enemies. Furthermore, when the two merge, Lilia always assumes the main personality. Thus, the leader declares that the girl can count on him if she wants help to become independent. Jumping for joy, Lily already shows that this won't be a simple process as she stumbles over her own leg. At this moment, Lilia appears in the room having heard Rudd's voice and sees the guild leader in bed with her sister because he had prevented her from falling just seconds ago. He tries to explain that it's not what she's thinking, but the girl pulls Rudd by the collar and calls him to the terrace. Up there, Rudd thinks Lilia is going to push him off, and she explains that she would do that to anyone but believes the Squire would never harm her younger sister. She was just pretending to be mad to bring Rude to the terrace and share a bit of their story, telling that in childhood their parents mistreated them so much that one day, the twins decided to run away forever. Since their father was especially cruel, Lily always had difficulty talking openly about her feelings with another man. For this reason, one day Lilia wants to take her younger sister to a place where she can truly be happy, and until then, she will take care of the little one. With this conversation, Rude sees how much the two love each other and comments to Lilia that her sister was praising her a lot in the room. However, Lilia doesn't think of herself as perfect, and Rude quickly agrees, saying that the girl loses it when it comes to the younger sister. In turn, Lilia threatens to shout, but eventually finds it amusing and bids farewell to the guild leader, making it clear that the girl can talk to him whenever she needs. The next day, the group goes to the Keeled Labyrinth, and the twins had gone ahead for reconnaissance, having just returned from the 49th floor with the other adventurers. Therefore, the group can now use Lily's ability, Dungeon Walk, to transport everyone directly there without having to advance through all the previous floors. Then Lilia informs some details she observed in the dungeon, like the composition of the groups of the most influential clans. The Black Dragon's Fang took 4 attackers, including their leader and 2 healers for support. The White Tiger's Claw took 4 attacking mages and 2 healers. In other words, both guilds focused on speed, with their attackers functioning as tanks. Furthermore, Lilia comments that each floor has many monsters with negative effects abilities, so Rudd concludes that his healthy body technique can be very helpful. Therefore, Nin announces that it will be a great challenge, but they need to reach the 51st floor and form alliances with the most influential guilds. Upon entering the labyrinth, Rudd divides the group's functions, placing himself in the front as always and leaving Marius in the rear. Luna will be in close combat, and Lilia will adapt to the situation. When the leader announces that Nin will take care of healing, Lily gathers courage and asks the boss to give orders during the battle. With this, Rudd realizes that she already wants to change her posture, so he agrees and asks Nin to help the girl command the rear. Soon, the team heads to the 49th floor, and the tank notices that the space there is not suitable for speed-focused fighters, but can be advantageous for a squire like him. As they walked, Marius warns that some enemies are positioned nearby, and Rude responds that he also felt their presence. Nin finds it strange that the tank possesses this perception ability, but Marius explains that it's because Rudd is also the administrator of the Avancia Labyrinth. Speaking of this technique, a guardian analyzes that the enemies have positioned themselves very well in the cave because the paths on the left and right lead to the same place where the Avancia clan needs to go. As the monsters split between the 2 paths, if the team attacks from the left, the enemies on the right will attack from behind and vice versa. Considering this tactic, Marius assumes that the dungeon's guardian must be quite intelligent, and everyone should be more attentive. At this moment, a venomous lizard and a black owl appear in front of the team, and right away, Rudd uses his sacrifice shield and taunt in battle. With this, the creatures focus on the tank, and the lizard attacks first with the poisonous mist. Promptly, Lily dispels the enemy mist, giving room for the Squire to counterattack and land a blow on the beast. Then the black owl also advances towards Rudd, who manages to push it away. However, as he was using a magical shield, the owl suffered no damage from the tank's retaliation. At that moment, Marius appears like an arrow and cuts the enemy in half, but another one emerges and goes straight for the rear, reaching Lily. However, once again, Lilia protects her sister and eliminates the creature, while several other owls start arriving for the fight. Lilia informs the leader that they could win this confrontation, but there's no need for them to continue fighting and wasting energy on this floor. Agreeing with this, Rudd sends the rest of the group ahead, while throwing a luminous magic stone at the enemy creatures and clearing his path for escape. Later, everyone gathers again, and the team members praise Lily's leadership, who gets excited and promises to do her best on the next floor as well. Lilia, who saved her sister from death and had the idea to retreat to avoid fatigue, turns to the younger sister and asks with her eyes if she's a joke to Lily. So Nin comments that he noticed the group can choose whether to absorb all the damage Rudd takes with Sacrifice Shield. The ability improved after the tank defeated Marius in Avancia. So the team highlights how the leader really has a knack for it, being the most talented tank they've ever seen. Taking the lead, Marius advises Rudd to learn the self-healing ability, even though it's not very common for humans. Given this information, the clan leader realizes they've never had a chat with Marius since he joined the team, so they don't even know if he's a human, for example. Therefore, he asks the Guardian to talk a bit about his own life, so he reveals himself to be a demonoid, and that he always omitted this fact out of fear of not being accepted by his friends. To explain what this means, he tells them that creatures from his world are divided between humans and demi-humans. A long time ago, there were also demonoids. Demi-humans and demonoids are similar, but those who pledged loyalty to a demon instead of the god worshipped by humans were known as demonoids. That's why he can manage labyrinths, because a long time ago, these dungeons were created by a demon with the intention of destroying the human world. This means that probably this cave is also led by such a being, and probably he is quite strong. Rudd questions if Marius feels upset knowing that they're going after someone of his race, but the Guardian reveals that he dislikes other demonoids, therefore if he defeats them in battle, he will end them as Marius, not as a demonoid like the enemies. In other words, Marius confesses that he followed Rudd's raid only for personal reasons. Still, the leader shows confidence in the Guardian, saying that he sees him as a friend and therefore counts on him from now on. Besides the tank, all other team members also welcome the demonoid with open arms, and Marius feels grateful for all the affection he's been receiving. Next, Lily takes the lead and wants to discuss strategies to fight the monsters on the 50th floor. Then the rest of the team approaches, and after deciding on the tactics they'll use, they move on to the next floor and already know how to face a bone dragon after Lily's guidance. In this case, she already knew there would be such an enemy up there, and this dragon is known for its status-affecting abilities. Therefore, Rudd must keep the enemy always close to him, while the rest of the team needs to stay out of the enemy's ability range to avoid being hit. Marius and Lilia should attack, maintaining this safe distance, and since it's a bone monster, it's better to use crushing attacks instead of cuts. Furthermore, as it is weak to fire, the group should enchant their weapons with this element before going up. And finally, when this bone dragon loses a certain amount of energy, something happens to its body and everyone must be very attentive when this happens. Thus, everyone knew their roles in this battle, and Rude tries to withstand the opponent's onslaughts, while Marius and Lilia attack the creature from behind whenever they get a chance. However, the dragon hits both of them, and they feel like they've been poisoned. Therefore, Rudd instructs Lily to heal him while the tank distracts the enemy. While he fulfills this objective, Luna hits the creature with fire, but even though Rue uses provocation to keep the enemy on him, the dragon continues to attack randomly. On top of that, it spews mud that sticks to the tank's shield, making his defense weapon much heavier. Then Nin steps in and undoes the mud with a water spell, and seeing that this fight will take longer than they predicted, she invokes an area healing spell, an ability that only the saint possesses. An hour later, the enemy is still standing, and it's at this moment that the effect of his body starts to show, just as Lily had revealed. After the monster's bodily transformations, it projects itself to unleash an absurd amount of fire, and Rude hurries to protect his group that was defenseless just behind him. However, despite the firepower, the Squire manages to emerge unscathed from the blast, frustrating the dragon, and shortly after, he provokes the winged creature once again, which in a sequence of blows deals 5,000 damage to the tank's defense. To ease the leader's burden, Marius and Lilia attack the opponent again, while the rest of the group uses fire to hit it head-on. In this sequence of attacks, the team finally manages to destabilize the opponent, and with the beast weakened, Rudd advances for the last time and uses his life conversion ability, converting all the damage he suffered into a deadly attack, finally finishing off the bone dragon and ending the long battle. After the victory, everyone decides that for now, they need to rest to recover their energies, as this enemy was extremely tough, and they need to be at their best to deal with what's to come. So they return to the city, and Lily thinks they should wait a bit before selling the items they got in the labyrinth, as selling them now would spread the news that their raid is progressing. Rudd accepts the advice, and Nin comments that Lily is developing her leadership sense more and more, which makes the girl even more motivated. Then the team decides to celebrate the day's victory, but Lilia says she won't be able to attend because she's too tired. Seeing her sister leaving, Lily says goodbye and decides to go along. Next week, we'll have more of this anime as soon as the new episode is released, so go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit the like button below to support this video. See you guys.